Movement.
What's the position?
Can't lock in.
Talk to me, Hudson.
Multiple signals. They're closing. I got signals. I got readings in front and behind.
Where, man? I don't see shit.
He's right, there's nothing back here.
Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us. They're coming out of the wall. They're coming out of the goddamn wall. Fuck!
Hello, and welcome to Cynic Critique, where we get real with cult films. I'm your host, Thomas, and this week is a little different as my co-host is my good friend Matt from Sitting Through the Credits, and we will be exploring the Alien franchise, starting this week with the Alien quadrilogy.
I've lost the signal.
You sure?
Look around. Are you sure that it's not there? I mean, it's got to be around there somewhere.
Checked it out, Lambert. You may be getting interference.
Dallas, are you sure there is no sign of it? I mean, it is there.
Hello, I'm here with my friend Matt from Sitting Through the Credits. Hello.
Hello.
And we're going to be discussing the Alien franchise, all of them.
I think
We're going through all of them. It may take a while. So we'll be starting with Alien, the classic 1979 film. It's directed by Ridley Scott and written by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett. And it stars Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, Tom Skerritt as Dallas, John Hurt as Kane, Veronica Cartwright as Lambert, Harry Dean Stanton as Brett, Ian Holm as Ash, and is it Yaphet Kotto as Parker?
Koto, yeah.
Koto. Yeah. Synopsis is, after investigating a mysterious transmission of unknown origin, the crew of a commercial spacecraft encounters a deadly life form. We all know that's the Alien. It's your favourite film, isn't it?
I think it's the greatest movie of all time. Should we move on?
All right, we'll move on. Aliens by James Cameron. No.
So was Alien the first, was that your first exposure to the Alien franchise then? Or were you similar to me?
Why, what was your AVP? I think mine could have been AVP as well. Because it was, I don't know when I watched it, but I was into action films and stuff like that. And action sci-fi, and that was like big at the time, wasn't it? So I was like straight in.
Yeah, so Predator was my first, well, that was my way towards Alien. So similar to your, well, I'm assuming Batman 89 was the film that got you into film.
Yeah.
So I think for me, Alien was definitely my way into film. I think I'd be a completely different person without this film. Well, my first experience, did you used to go into video rental stores and just look at the backs of VHSs? Because that's what I did.
It was pretty much looking at them, yeah. Parents like, no, can't.
Yeah, they were forbidden, so it was a great thing just to look at the back of. So for me, Alien was built up as this mythical thing. My parents told me it's the scariest movie of all time when I was young. They convinced me that it was all about a flower that opened up, which is an interesting take on the franchise. And I remember being in the States and going on a great movie ride, which has got an incredible Alien. Well, it did have an incredible Alien sequence. It was demolished in 2017, sadly. But the whole thing is available on YouTube, so I definitely encourage your listeners to just go and look at that because it's fantastic. And I remember being on that ride and on these little train cars as you're going through. And then the alien jumps out in two separate points and it jumped out right above my head. I was already not happy about going on this ride in the first place because I've been told this is the scariest movie of all time. You go on a ride and suddenly you're in the Nostromo and Ripley's there, sweat coming off her face. It was a fantastic experience. Terrified me as a kid. And then years later, so Predator was obviously a big film for me. Remember the AVP trailer? It genuinely worried me because I'm just like, oh God, the alien's in that. And that was like and then finally watching AVP thinking, this is a fantastic film.
Yeah.
At the time, I still defend it. And I think we'll come back to that later, won't we?
Probably.
But then finally seeing Alien, it genuinely scared me the first time I watched it. And I must have been 15.
I think my fear of the alien had disappeared after watching AVP and I thought this Predator can kick its ass, so I was fine.
For a film made in 1979, and obviously it's off the back of Star Wars. Star Wars has come in and you've suddenly got a grindy universe. We're not in the 1950s anymore where everything's nice and clean, rounded edges to everything. It is a lived-in world. The often repeated adage of these are space truckers. They're just out there doing a job. I could go on for a while. You should probably shut me up just temporarily.
My first time watching Alien, I remember just sat waiting for it because, like, you all know, like, by this point, everyone that sits down to watch Alien, they know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first watched it, I'd watched AVP, obviously, so I was just like, yeah, I know this. I know what's coming. So the first time I watched it, I thought, like, it was all right. I wasn't amazed by it by any means. It was when we got into Aliens, like, that was the one that really hooked me in. And then every time I revisit Alien, I think it gets better.
Yeah.
Well, Aliens is always the top one for me.
I think seeing it on a big screen is where it's meant to be. I'd love to go back in time to 1979 for all of these stories of people seeing it for the first time and running to the back of the cinema screens and throwing up in the cinema screens at the chestburster sequence. I just think that would be fantastic. I mean, to talk about sort of the origins of it, you've got Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett are credited as the writers. Dan came in from Dark Star, which I don't know if you've seen Dark Star.
No.
So Dan and John Carpenter met at university, and I think the way he tells it, I think is a bit unkind. He says that instead of making the best student film of all time, they made the least impressive motion picture of all time, sadly, because the budget just ballooned and suddenly they're like, oh, we could put this out in theatres. Yeah, it's a comedy. It's a good science fiction comedy. The bit where he's talking to the bomb's fantastic. But you've got this alien character where Dan O'Bannon himself plays Pinback in the film. And it's absolutely for laughs. This alien is literally a beach ball that's walking. And from that, yeah, he has this idea for Alien. And along the way, he's Alejandro Jodorowsky wanted to do Dune. And he'd seen Dark Star, which, you know, for a student film with a relatively small budget, to say, oh, it's impressive what you've done with the special effects with that, come on board, that's a pretty massive thing. So he gets Dan on board to work on Dune. In the process, he meets Christopher Fox, one of the artists who would help out on Alien, and he meets Hans-Rudy Giger. And, you know, famously at the time, Giger was taking opium and sort of telling Dan about his series, frightened of his visions, and shows him this book of all of his artwork. And so Dan gets all these ideas are slowly building up. He meets Ronald Shusett. Once again, that's because of Dark Star that they connected. And Ronald, he had the right to do Total Recall. I forget the name. Something, we can do that for you wholesale? No, forgive me. But yeah, so they decided that we'll do Total Recall later because you'll need a big budget for that. Yeah. Alien. Because originally they were going to do it as a Roger Corman film. Right. And then, you know, the wheels turn. Eventually they ended up meeting Gordon Carroll, David Geiler and Walter Hill. I know you love Walter Hill. I love Dan O'Bannon, and hearing Dan's side of the story, I had a very bad impression of Walter Hill for a long time. Admittedly, I love The Warriors, and I need to see more of his films, I think. But Dan viewed Walter Hill as a guy who did tough guy pictures. And yeah, I think Walter famously said, it declared in front of the whole crew, the biggest thing I can bring to this production is I know nothing about science fiction, and I don't like it. And there was this constant battle where Geiler and Hill in particular were just constantly rewriting the scripts that were coming in that were being refined by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett. Yeah. And they got it in their head that if they changed all the characters' names, they could suddenly claim credit for it. Right. And at one stage, O'Bannon walked into the studio, saw a draft of the script with Gordon Carroll, and it was Alien by David Geiler and Walter Hill. and he was just like, well, what's this about? And so, you're not supposed to have seen that. So there was this tension that was there, but there was suddenly a budget. You've got Ridley Scott coming in with all of his ideas. Dan shows Ridley Necronom 4, which was in the Necronomicon, Giger's book, and Ridley agrees, that's the Alien. That's what we're going to do. Because Ron Cobb had a crack at it beforehand. He was doing a lot of the designs for the spaceships. And everything just comes together. Because there's that beautiful mix between the design of the spaceships. There's that real tangibility that this is a real thing. Yeah, this could work. Yeah. It's the future. Yeah. It's a retro future now as we look back at it with all of its CRT monitors and all of that. Yeah. But there's a real tangibility to it. And then you've got that complete mixture of practicality with Giger's sort of erotic biomechanical design for the alien, for the space jockey, for the derelict spaceship. Yeah. I just think it just blends seamlessly together into this. Oh, it's a wonderful world. Yeah, I've badmouthed Geiler and Hill a lot there. In their defence, they do bring the android plot in, which is a very important part of the film. And I think going forward, I think androids are a real integral part of the whole franchise, really, aren't they? Yeah. Especially Ridley Scott later on. Oh, yeah. Really, he loves that. Yeah, he really does. Oh, God. I'm getting flashbacks now. For better and for worse. Oh, I think for worse. Yeah. On the whole, I think, yeah. We'll get to Prometheus and Covenant later, won't we?
I think so.
Yeah. Right. Is there anything you wanted to say? Because I feel like I've taken over.
Oh, Alien. Could listen to you talk about Alien all day, Matt.
One thing about rom-com that it's completely mad, but just to put so much effort into signage. If you look in Alien, you'll see these square, like, pictograms all across the wall, and they come back in Aliens, and almost all of the Alien movies, they come back in Prometheus as well, for sure, and Covenant. And it's called the Semiotic Standard, and he just came up with this whole series of pictograms that it's so much detail that it's just like, do people actually care about this? And yeah, it just enriches the world, in my opinion. The amount of effort that's gone into just some signage on a wall. I mean, you've got Duncan Jones's Moon. They slightly copy it. It's not the same, but it's pretty close. And It's just had this massive impact.
Alien overall's had a massive impact on sci-fi movies anyway.
Absolutely. What do you think about the music?
Jerry Goldsmith.
Yes.
I love it.
However,
what are you going to tell me now?
he hates it.
Really?
It's not him. Well, no, it is him, but it's another movie in particular, and that's Freud, The Secret Passion.
Right.
So you had Jerry wrote the score for Alien, and the editor, Terry Rawlings, famous film editor who's done so much work, and he continues to do work in the Alien series after Alien. But he basically did a temp track, as it was. So as they're editing, he used Jerry's new stuff, but he also went back and they actually went and bought works from Jerry's back catalogue, especially Freud, The Secret Passion, and put it into the film. And it went all the way through the process. So from editing start all the way to finished product, it is music from another film. And I think it works perfectly.
Definitely.
Yeah. I don't know if it's on the Blu-ray, definitely on the 4K of Alien. They've actually now released an isolated score so you can watch the movie. It's a sort of difficult thing to recommend because you are literally watching the movie silently and there are large parts of the movie where there is no music. But you get to hear the theme that Jerry originally composed for the opening credits, which is fascinating.
Right.
Because it's a lot darker in both theatrical and director's cut. But it's interesting to hear these bits of music that have been lost, essentially. And I think he won the Academy Award for music. Did he not, Jerry Goldsmith?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, even though he hated it.
Yeah.
The way his music was treated.
Right. So the films I know him for, like, mainly, he got screwed over them. Because I know he got took off Superman. He was going to originally do Superman, but obviously you get John Williams and you can't have anyone else.
Yeah.
And they had him on Supergirl instead, which is a failure of a movie.
Right. This is getting good, though.
The music's great. I actually listened to it and I just go, yeah, I bet that was what he did for Superman. They just thought, yeah, that's good.
How about the characters then? What do you make of the characters then?
John Hurt,
yes,
should do more.
I do like the way they focus on him. If anything, it kind of marginalises Ripley a bit. Knowing the journey that character's going to have throughout this franchise for essentially being a side character for definitely up until she takes the initiative and decides she's going to keep deciphering the message. And then maybe at that point you realise that, she's actually going to have quite a major role. And she's obviously the one that says, no, we're following quarantine procedures. Yeah. And then Ash is obviously the one who breaches quarantine procedures. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. How spoilery are we going with this?
It's a well-known franchise, Matt. We'll be discussing Aliens and Alien 3, so I think the outcome is a bit obvious. But
I'm given that she always survives if she's in the next movie, though. That's the interesting thing about Ripley.
When I first watched it, I thought it was Dallas going to be the main Tom Skerritt.
Yes.
I thought he was going to be the main character.
You just pre-programmed to think that, aren't you, when you've got a leading man, the captain of the ship?
Yeah, I think that's... And he seems to take charge, doesn't he? And then, doesn't end well for him.
He's the one that goes into the vents with the flamethrower.
Gets jazz hands to death.
Oh, it's great. What do you make of the director? Because I'm going to assume you watched the director's cut first.
That was the version I used to watch all the time.
Exactly the same.
And I think it was only when I watched it in cinema back to back with Aliens.
Yeah.
That was the first time I watched the regular version. And I thought it was amazing. I couldn't work out why until I realised I'd only watched the director's cut, in which Ridley just butchers it.
Yeah.
For no reason whatsoever.
The tension of that final act.
But after seeing what he did to the Alien franchise later, I understand that he doesn't really understand Alien at all.
But basically, put the crab walk in, which is an interesting bit of footage to watch if you've seen the Alien. It literally crab walks towards Lambert and then stands up. It just looks all sort of wrong. Obviously, they're experimenting with things, which is fair enough. Because, they're trying to not make this thing look like a man in a suit at the end of the day.
Which they do a great job at.
It's sort of the Jaws approach, isn't it? We won't show it as much as possible.
Great creature.
That's perfect.
It's one of the best.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me it was a perfect organism. But it's definitely one of the best creature designs ever.
Yeah. I mean, they always say the Predator looks great in person.
Do love the Predator.
Yeah.
Not the movie The Predator. I love Predator.
Yeah.
A creature.
Yeah, when it comes to creature design, I mean, it is a perfect recreation of what Giger did anyway, so wasn't going to fail. Obviously, a big part of it is Balaji Badejo. He was a Nigerian design student who they just met in a bar. And this incredibly lanky guy, he was tragically died in the late 90s from sickle cell anemia, which is very sad. Only film he ever did. I think one of the producers just approached him and said, "Do you want to be in movies?" Admittedly, he's not in the film all that much, and most of it is Eddie Powell, who's a famous stuntman who's done lots of work.
Yeah.
So Brett's death sequence, even Dallas's death sequence in the, this is definitely spoiling it, in the vents, because Balaji wouldn't fit.
Right.
So it's Eddie in that scene. But yeah, as a performance, you see enough, I think. The director's cut includes extra bits, which I'll never understand, to be honest. Like, get a full-on close-up of it hanging.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's just like, look, this creature is in popular culture. We know what this thing looks like. Don't show it in this cut.
I think Ridley's thing on it, when he did his director's cut, I think it was for the people that already knew Alien
Yeah.
as a film and wanted just to get straight in there and just go like, I want to look at it. I want to get there quicker. They don't really bother about the suspense, I guess.
Yeah. But it's a great design. Obviously, the build-up to the big chap, as it's nicknamed because of the Kenner toy. Yeah, there's the skull underneath the dome, which has started to come back now. That went missing for a while. And Carlo Rambaldi's incredible, you're talking 1979, so the work to get the second set of jaws with the extendable tongue, it's incredible. I mean, obviously, he used condoms to create the system. It was the best way to do the side of it. KY jelly all over it, because all these horror movies are great. And they just get buckets full of KY jelly just to do these. I love it when that happens with effect. There's quirks with the editing, so like Lambert's death scene, if you notice, there's like a continuity area when you just see the alien's tail snaking up, and it's just left to the imagination how she meets her fate. But if you notice, the shoes change. She's been wearing cowboy boots for the entire movie. Right. Suddenly she's wearing Converse, and that's because it's Brett, and it's a sequence that they've taken out of order for that death sequence.
How odd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no one's going to notice. Let's be honest. It's only like strange people like me that watch this movie again and again. I mean, I keep coming back to it. It's a film that's got so much detail that I think you can watch it again almost immediately after finishing it and just pick up on something you missed the time before.
Yeah.
Talking about people that notice really obscure details, where Weyland Yutani comes from is from Alien slightly, because the beer, they've got these beer cans, they're meant to call Aspen, I think, and on the beer can you've got Weyland Yutani, no D, right? And then you also get Weyland Yutani on some of the computer screens, although admittedly I've not spotted. Someone's pointed out one on a computer screen to me once, but even I'll forget that, but you can see it on the beer cans,
right? And
that just tiny detail then suddenly spins off into the franchise, and thank you James Cameron for that. It's technically a continuity error, but it's a nice one.
I think I saw it. I couldn't tell you where.
No, I think it's early on.
Knowing how I am, I'm also quite forgetful with odd things like that, so I'll probably just think it was in one of the other ones.
What do you think about Ash anyway? Ian Holmes' performance is that's impressive, I think.
Oh yeah, Ash is, what is he like? One of the earliest examples of an android, I guess.
Yeah.
In film, big sci-fi films anyway. Not many really define. I don't think there is. A lot of them used to be cheesy. Alien's like one of the first serious, very serious sort of sci-fi films.
And we thank Star Wars for that, really, because that was the script that just happened to be that we want more science fiction. Science fiction's big.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be the one that was sat there.
Yeah.
But Ash's fate is another moment that got people fainting in cinemas, apparently, at the time.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing with Ash. You don't really know he's an android till later.
Did the company know what they were doing? Did they already know what they were sending the Nostromo out to do?
I don't know if they did.
Because Ripley asks if Dallas had shipped out with Ash before, and he says that he'd shipped out with another science officer, but they changed him 2 days before setting off.
Right.
Which, if you're suddenly changing the science officer for an android, it opens some questions. I suppose maybe some of the prequels have slightly explored it, but it's interesting. How much do Weyland actually know?
That's the thing. They are off to investigate a distress signal.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just all you know.
Yeah.
And that's all I've ever really needed to. I never really questioned. I thought, you could do a prequel to this. And after watching like Aliens and whatnot, I kind of think I know what a prequel to this would be. But apparently I did not know what a prequel to this would be.
And you do not like those films at all, do you?
No.
I think I'll defend them a bit, but
I don't think I can.
Well, one thing we can definitely agree on is that the sequel is pitch perfect, right?
Aliens. With the dollar sign.
Do you think we've talked enough about Alien?
We could talk longer about it.
Absolutely.
I'll move us along to Alien.
Well, can I at least say that the Who, the laser system, was borrowed from the Who was shooting a music video, I believe, next door, or at least testing out these laser systems. So when they go into the belly of the derelict, Kane does, and he breaks the laser line. That was from the Who.
Right. Is this why you like the Who?
I like the Who. That was another weird thing with the director's cut. We suddenly show I'm back onto Alien again. They suddenly show a close-up of Kane's pistol. Why?
It doesn't get you.
Strange thing to do. And it's kind of an interesting detail anyway, because, and this is just me. You know, Dallas says, prepare to break out the weapons. They're on their hips. There's quite a nice detail is that to make the scale of the sets look bigger when they're on the planet and when they're in the space jockey room with the derelict in particular, it's Ridley Scott's children.
Yeah.
Which also, when they then go up to stand around the space jockey and suddenly it exploded from inside, suddenly the space jockey doesn't look as big as it did before. There's that. But it's quite nice because they go from having these Rex in favour submachine guns, which have been turned into these, they are ray guns, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
It doesn't quite match with what we get later on.
No.
But for the kids, they're little potato guns. My granddad used to have one. So Webley, well, definitely air pistols, not potato guns, forgive me for that. Yeah, Webley air pistols. So you've got that, you know, the scaled down suits versus the big suits. I just love that sort of thing. It's just camera trickery.
No, it is good. They do great with the effects work on Alien. I've always appreciated that, if anything else. It's a great movie, and
He knows my word pickets.
best movie ever made, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Just tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan.
Aliens, directed by James Cameron, written by James Cameron. No other writer, is there? No, I didn't think so. Just IMDb trying to give Walter Hill credit here.
Is that it again?
I love the guy, I can't help it. He did The Warriors, he did Streets of Fire, he did 48 Hours, he did another 48 Hours. I can't help but love Walter Hill. Did that pretty bland action movie, Tomboy, with Michelle Rodriguez. I'll count the cast of this. Sigourney Weaver's back, surprisingly, as Ripley. Michael Biehn, Corporal Hicks. Kerry Henn is Newt. Paul Reiser as Burke. I'm going to have to go through all of these because they're so... Lance Henriksen, Bishop. Bill Paxton, Private Hudson. William Hope, Lieutenant Gorman. Jeanette Goldstein as Private Vasquez. Al Matthews as Sergeant Apone. Matt Ralston as Private Drake. Rico Ross, Private Frost. And the synopsis from IMDb. Decades after surviving the Nostromo incident, Ellen Ripley is sent out to re-establish contact with a terraforming colony, but finds herself battling the aliens.
So you think it's better than the original?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always has been for me, but I always lean towards action films, and this is more action. And
Yeah.
Michael Biehn in it, who I knew from Terminator. And
I do think it's almost a disservice to just say it's an action film, though, because it is...
I don't say it's just an action film. It has more action than Alien, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It has soldiers in it, man.
Absolutely. I think... I'm hesitant to say it because you know how much I love the original, but I love these are 10 out of 10 movies for me. I could point flaws out in them, but they do not diminish my opinion of these films at all. Aliens is very rich in themes. It's surprising for a movie that is... You can view it as, this is just an allegory for the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
There's this lovely running theme in the special edition, of course, because the theatrical cut, whereas with Alien, I say theatrical cut all the way. With Aliens, I say special edition all the way. Because to delete the mother plot, it deeply upset Sigourney Weaver. And Cameron didn't have the guts to tell her before the first screening, so they all sat down in their finery to watch this, and she was gutted. Since then, I hope she's seen it, because I think it's fantastic.
I'm going to say the special cut. I know that was the only one I ever watched.
Yeah, it's the only one I watched for years.
And I think I put it on TV one night, and I was just like, this is weird. I thought they were just quitting stuff out to get it on TV at the time, sort of thing, but no.
Yeah, it was only when I watched it on Disney Plus fairly recently. It was the first time I'd ever seen the theatrical cut. I think you can't get rid of this stuff. It's pretty key to the whole journey. That she's lost a daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, motherhood, it just runs throughout the entire film. They've got a working woman who's lost a child, then finds a child who's lost her parents, and then, so you've got the whole thing of just because this person isn't your biological daughter doesn't mean that she's not your daughter, essentially. Then you've got the criticism of a stay-at-home mum in The Queen, which arguably is a bit tenuous. If anything, you could say it's both feminist and anti-feminist because it's criticising the traditional female role while sort of empowering the strong female character who's a working mother who, goes out there to rescue a child who isn't actually her own, but who she's adopted with the loss of her own child. You end up, at the end of the film, you've got this family that is formed through adversity. The one surviving Marine, massive spoilers.
About to say, Corporal Hicks, can't forget him. My favourite guy.
Yeah. Also, an infinitely quotable film from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And probably the most, I can only think of Predator as a film I can quote as easily as I can Aliens.
And to think of the large cast of this as well.
Yeah.
And nearly all of them, them through quotes, through just anything. They do how their characters act in the world to each other. It's all there.
But they've all got a distinct identity.
Yeah,
haven't they?
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. As soon as it opens, you just know everyone straight off. There's not a single character you don't know. And you know their personality as well. Even if they're just very basic characters, you know them.
Yeah.
And it gets you through the whole movie with them,
Absolutely.
sort of.
Oh, yeah, for some drop off along the way. But yeah, I mean, going sort of to the origins of the film, obviously Cameron coming off the cinematic masterpiece that was Piranha 2 Flying Killers.
You know what? I thought you were going to say The Terminator. You knew that, so I was thinking.
Obviously, The Terminator was a massive success. His journey into aliens was pitching another project to Geiler in Hell, and that was like a Spartacus in space. But according to Cameron, same as Dan O'Bannon said, that these two just didn't get science fiction. They just wanted sword and sandals in space.
Right.
In Cameron's own words, he was like, these two had looked into Alien, and they realised this thing was a cash cow, but they didn't know what to do with it. So what was called Alien 2 was sat on the shelf, and no one knew how to approach it. And Cameron saw this and just like, I've hit the jackpot here.
Yeah.
Because he loved the original. And he'd already been working on a script that was ironically called E.T. And he then subsequently rewrote that. Well, he changed the title to Mother, which obviously that ran all the way through. And they didn't even know that Sigourney Weaver was going to be on board for a while. So he wrote it for Ripley coming back. And then later, the negotiations brought Sigourney back to the project. And I think at Geiler and Hell, they just gave him a short outline. They did specify it will be on the same planet as Alien. That planet would be colonized now, and that Marines would come in. So the idea was sketched in already. But after that, on the outline that they presented to Cameron, it then said, so it had this outline, these are the things that we need. And then there at the bottom it said, and then some bullshit happens. So that probably sort of shows you the approach that they were taking.
That sounds like one of my scripts. And then some bullshit happens. That's like at the end of all mine.
Cameron was doing Rambo First Blood Part 2 at the same time.
Yeah.
So he had two desks and he would listen to different music while he was working on different projects. He was doing Rambo and he was doing Aliens. And you can kind of see that sort of cross-pollination of ideas because you've got Alien. It is the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
You know, it's a...
It's just a shame Stallone doesn't come across.
if that'd be better or worse. If he died off right early on, it's like a shock.
Yeah, you think he's going to be the saviour of the whole franchise
Yeah.
all of a sudden, then no, he's the first Marine out.
But you've got that sort of cross-pollination of ideas. So you've got, First Blood Part 2, Vietnam, what's after the Vietnam War, going back to rescue
Should have
paratroopers.
had Alien First Blood.
Wow. But yeah, so Vietnam War, you've got American military, armed to the teeth, all their technology, fighting. Well, it's a bit unkind to call the sort of, the Viet Cong a primitive force, but a force that is less well equipped and is using tunnels and is using guerrilla tactics to take them on, which is what the aliens essentially do in the Hive. And the Marines go in all confident, especially Hudson.
Hudson, the most confident coward you'll ever know.
Immediately just complete character change. And it's a wonderful performance. Got to hand it to Bill Paxton,
He's the best coward in a film I can think of.
who then redeems himself towards the end.
I just love that.
Yeah,
He's no Hicks. Hicks is like the complete opposite. Cool, calm all the way through. And
it's the being asleep in the dropship on the way down that I love.
I don't think I knew it was Michael Biehn from The Terminator when I first watched it.
Interesting. I think I saw The Terminator before this,
Yeah.
but I think I'm in the same boat that I didn't realise it was him.
Yeah. And then when I knew him, I said, every time I watch it, I go, he gets better, this guy.
I mean, famously, James Remar originally cast.
Yeah.
So he was caught, buying drugs, and then he had to quickly be escorted out of the country.
I just want to know how he would have played Higgs differently. I just don't imagine him being the same.
Where you can marvel the sight of him walking towards the Hive and just look at his back and think, what a performance that guy's giving.
Well, it's just in my head, around this sort of time, the only film I can think of him in is The Warriors as Ajax, in which he's like a complete opposite guy to Higgs.
When was The Warriors?
1979?
70s, yeah.
So in my head, he was just Ajax around that era. So to me, I just think, nah.
I wonder if it's a complete character rewrite, because Michael Biehn plays it very laid back to start with. It's why it might be one of my favourite romances in film.
Like I said, he's the complete opposite to Hudson. He's so calm and collect at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, actually, he's so relaxed, it's unnerving at the beginning. And then once all the action kicks off, he's just like, yeah, I can do this.
He's handling
Nothing phases him at all. But he gets alien blood on his face. He's fine.
Bishop's the one that drugs him up and then knocks him out at the end of the film. It's not even him doing it. Because initially, he's kind of just one of the Marines, isn't he? And he's sat next to Frost. They're having dialogue, and he is a corporal, but you don't really... This guy isn't necessarily a leader at this stage.
No, he just seems like one of the guys, really.
Yeah, and then when they breach the planet, when Ripley's about to enter the colony for the first time, he's the one that turns around and says, are you okay?
Yeah.
He gets it. He's sweeping through the colony beforehand, but he's just one of the guys, and it's only once... You have that first action sequence The Marines get slaughtered, let's be honest.
Yeah.
We lose Apo. These characters that have been sort of built up already as, you know, Apo's...
Well, I'd say once you met them, you know them, you kind of
Yeah.
feel like they just handle themselves all right. So once they get taken out, you're like, this isn't going to go well at all.
I mean, Frost is well characterised. Drake's well characterised. I mean, the second smart gunner, he's not in the film very much, essentially.
No, but very memorable. They're all very memorable.
They put so much effort. It annoys me in films nowadays where they don't take just a little bit of time just to set up a character. Admittedly, we've probably watched Aliens a lot at this stage.
More than half my life I've been watching it. So,
yeah, so I mentioned the romance before. So you've got the way that it is a romance story, isn't it? Hicks and Ripley.
they just kind of get thrown together.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a romance. They're just kind of in it together.
I don't know. I think the scene with the pulse rifle might be the most
romantic thing.
Yeah, it sounds silly, but it's just the way that, oh, that's the grenade launcher. You don't want to have to deal with that. But he's like setting a barrier, and then Ripley's just immediately going, no, I think I can. He's like, right, we'll do this then.
Yeah.
There's like a trust there. He's one of the only ones that pays attention early on when they're talking about the fact that she's dealt with this threat before.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, and she's the one that says, Corporal Higgs is next in chain of command. He goes, yeah, that's right. And then gets on with it, but also respects that, no, she's actually just as in charge as I am.
I guess he can use her as like the intel.
Yeah.
She's the one who knows this better than anyone else in his team. Yes, face it, they all got killed.
He's the one that throws himself through a plate glass window to rescue her at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Great character. He doesn't even question it when she's going back for new. We're going back for new.
Yeah.
So that sort of family dynamic that develops, I just think it's just great storytelling. And then you've got a film that it looks fantastic. You know, you've got the set design. Ron Cobb comes back from Alien, but you've also got Sid Mead this time as well. But Cameron, the amount of work he did, the sketches that he's done.
Yeah.
I met Terry English, who designed the Marine armor. And he signed one Cameron sketches for me, which is just like, that's it. You know, Cameron just did it perfectly. Yeah. And obviously people then created it.
Yeah.
But he did the same with all the weapons, you know, the smart guns, the pulse rifle. I mean, is there a more iconic science fiction weapon than the pulse rifle?
Weapon?
Yeah.
Probably.
You think?
I could throw a lightsaber at it. Everyone
knows okay. Firearm.
But yeah, when it comes to guns, I think the pulse rifle's up there.
Yeah.
Not many other ones I can think of.
Yeah, but the sound as well is incredible. One detail that I really love is that Frost has got his grey t-shirt he's got when he's on the Sulaco, the spaceship. It's the concept art for the pulse rifle when it was built on an MP5, and then it was built on an M1 Thompson with Remington 870 underneath with a Franchi Spas 12 heat shield around the front end, and then with that casing built on top of it. And I think science fiction has been sort of spoiled by that. I don't think any science... I quite like the Marita from Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
And the new L-44 from Romulus is quite a nice idea. Heavily based on what was done in Aliens there. It's still Thompson submachine gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's just pitch perfect design.
To be fair, when you think about it, Aliens, and James Cameron himself kind of spoiled sci-fi for everyone.
It's hard to top.
He did Aliens.
Yeah.
Fantastic. He did The Terminator. Fantastic. The guy is really talented. I genuinely miss his great movies.
And now he's wedded to Avatar.
Yeah, they're just not as good.
Sadly. I mean, I'm probably the villain of Avatar because when I watch it, I think, hey, that's cool. That looks like something used in Aliens. And I'm like, oh, no, we're supposed to be on the Na'vi side, aren't we?
No. Side with the mass murderers.
Although, one thing about the pulse rifle that has definitely been broken for me with the new 4K transfer they've done, which has been a bit controversial among the community with all the sort of digital noise reduction and the AI. I saw it recently for the first time and really enjoyed it. All the detail was just nice to see. If you look very closely, the pulse rifle, the LED counter, which is supposed to tick down, never ticks down. If it's lit in the movie, it always says 42. Always. Or it's switched off. So when she puts the magazine in for 95 rounds at the end, it immediately says 42 afterwards, which makes me a little bit sad.
Maybe all the guns had technical issues.
Very true. Yeah, that's perfect movie. What is with Michael Biehn getting his hand a bit in movies?
Sorry,
that's in Terminator as well.
Yeah. He offered his hand out to women and they just bite his hand.
Does it happen in The Abyss?
Probably.
I genuinely can't remember. It's just a strange detail. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. The music by James Horner, the very percussive,
love it,
beat. It comes back, and that was another case, very similar to Jerry Goldsmith, where almost 5 minutes before the movie was about to be released, they rescored everything. They started from scratch. It must break you as an artist. Just remember that says, yeah, we can't use this. I think a lot of it is used for one of the Star Trek movies that he scored. Would it be The Wrath of Khan?
I don't know.
I'm not 100%. It's definitely one of the Star Trek movies, but the famous piece of music which is used when they're leaving the atmosphere processor towards the end of the movie, the big climactic escape. That music is used in so many movie trailers. It's insane how many movie trailers that is used in.
How many?
A lot.
I knew you couldn't answer this.
Should be able to answer this. Yes, music, fantastic. Actors, fantastic. Set design, fantastic. I mean, you've got the dropships and the APCs, which the APC was one of those tugs you use to move aircraft at airports.
Yeah.
You've got Acton Lane Power Station, which you all know, of course, from Batman 89.
Yeah.
And apparently when they were filming there, to start with the APC, I was about to call it a prop. Not really a prop though, is it? The amount of work that was done to that vehicle.
Yeah.
They had to lighten it extensively, but even then they had to reinforce the floors of the power station because the thing was too heavy. And they had to reinforce the floors of the studio as well because it was just going to go through the studio. When they were filming at Acton Lane, they found there was a big asbestos problem. So they had to spend a lot of the budget to pull out all that asbestos. And by the time they'd finished, when they did air quality control checks, it was cleaner than it was in the studio. But the Hive set, which they obviously built in Acton Lane, when Batman 89 came to film there, and it's the same where the Batmobile drives through, it's exactly the same as where the APC arrives. You can see, obviously it's a bit more lit up for Axis Chemical Works, is it?
Yeah.
But a lot of the Hive set was still standing, so they had to get rid of it. Demolished now, sadly. But just a nice little period of film history for it.
It's a shame they didn't keep the alien stuff in the Batman set there.
But yeah, I think the perfect sequel.
Definitely. Like I said, this is probably my favourite one.
Yeah.
The whole lot of Alien. This is just my kind of thing, though.
Oh, no, it's my kind of thing as well.
I love just sci-fi action films were always my thing, and this was it.
Yeah.
You're watching like this, it's amazing. And so it's always stuck with me from when I was younger, I think. So don't think Alien will ever beat it for me, unfortunately.
In my mind, Alien came first. Without Alien, you don't get Alien.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I watched Alien before this. It gets better, Alien, for me, I think, over time. I appreciate it a lot more as I get older, but Aliens is just the one I just really enjoy watching.
I'm never going to badmouth it.
You sure?
Absolutely. Although people that might badmouth it are the people that worked on set who were falling out with Cameron all the time.
Yeah.
Because he did not get on with the staff at Pinewood Studios, which admittedly might be down to the fact that British crews were a bit more rigid when it came to unions and working set hours. And he hated it when the tea lady arrived and famously booted the trolley, I'm sure it was. Yeah. I mean, he tried to get them to sit down to watch The Terminator because as far as they were concerned, this young Canadian was coming in and was, stealing Ridley Scott's legacy.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, really, we're going to honour this.
Yeah.
Come and watch what I've done before. And they just weren't interested at all. I'm sure opinions have changed after this one came out.
Free watching of The Terminator before you work on Aliens, I'd have been so happy with that.
That's like the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, if you can time travel, that is the movie to go work on. You feel like, I get to work with James Cameron, I need his second best movie.
Yeah.
I'm in. Sorry, Matt. Aliens is his second best movie for me. The Terminator is just always number one.
Still.
Yeah. I love The Terminator.
I mean, Michael Biehn does say that Aliens is the best movie he's ever worked in.
I love them both. The Terminator is just the one I love more. I don't know why.
I love it as well.
I think it's because it just stole from X-Men, which apparently stole from Doctor Who, but never mind.
It's true.
Is it time to go on to Alien 3?
I think it is. And this might be interesting because I know a lot of people don't like this one.
We like it, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Alien 3 from 1992.
Was there an alien on board?
Yes.
Is David Fincher's directorial debut, Alien 3, isn't it?
Oh.
Movie debut.
Yeah, because he done music videos.
Music video, yeah.
And he did Vogue, famous.
Yeah.
I think he must be, yeah.
The writer in this one, Vincent Ward.
Well, yes.
The only writer that isn't... there is Larry Ferguson on here as well, on IMDb. And then the rest of it, people that have previously worked on it, like Walter Hill, David Giler, Ronald Shusett, and Dan O'Bannon. So I don't really know who the writer is for this.
That's the problem. There were over 30 scripts for this film, and it is very much an amalgamation.
And if I'm right, David Fincher was also writing.
Oh, yeah.
And it stars Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, Charles S. Dutton, and Lennon Dillon, Charles Dance, Dr. Jonathan Clemens, Paul McGann, Walter Golick. Do you even learn half these names?
It's better in the assembly cut, I think. Yeah.
But you could tell me all the cast of this one.
Good chunk of them. Quite like Holt McCallany.
Holt McCallany, Junior.
Pete Postlethwaite, obviously.
Do you know what? His name's not even in the top a lot, I don't think.
Pete Postlethwaite, isn't?
There he is, right near the end.
Steven Spielberg called him the greatest actor of all time, famously.
He plays David Postlethwaite in there.
Right, because that's interesting that they didn't just use the first names of some of the actors.
Right.
I know Clyde Mantel has a Clive in it as well.
You know what? The amount of times I've seen this one, I can barely tell you any of the characters, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
You know Morse?
I don't know them by name.
No.
No, I recognise them.
Well, that's interesting that you recognise them, because that's the big complaint about this film, is that it's a lot of bald men.
And they are on a prison planet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't go through a synopsis. F1, returning from LV-426, Ellen Ripley crash lands on the maximum security prison. God, I thought it said Florida for a second. Urina 161, where she discovers that she has unwittingly brought along an unwelcome visitor, and this is where we learn our favourite characters from Aliens are now not with us.
Yes, and that's the other big problem with the film.
R.I.P. Hudson. I'm not giving away spoilers here.
I wonder what's going on for a second.
Hicks got confused with Hudson in Aliens. I thought I'd do it myself.
Well, you spoiled it for everybody.
See what I mean? I've seen this film multiple times. This was my second favourite on original viewing.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I've got to ask, what was the order? So you were Aliens, Alien 3, Alien?
Yeah, originally.
Wow.
I think it's because, like I said, on the original viewing, Alien was just like, I know what's coming. There was no tension there. I was young. I really liked action over suspense. So Aliens just kicked everything off, and then I kind of settled in for Alien 3. Absolutely mortified by the opening.
Absolutely.
Devastated.
Yes.
It's probably the most devastating opening to a movie I've seen since X-Men 3. And I watched them around about a similar time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a horrible year for me.
Just depression.
Favourite character off. Yeah.
Mm.
And then I still ended up ranking it as my second favourite for years. I honestly couldn't tell you when this got dethroned from second.
Wow.
And it was just number 3.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
I love the whole prison planet as a setting. And they've got nothing to defend themselves. They're the opposite to Aliens, and this is why I love it. Not only do they have nothing to defend themselves with, it's just one alien. And it's so threatening in comparison to what you get in Aliens, because it's just one alien by itself, and they're defenseless.
Yeah.
And then a load of people just die, and you don't really know who's dying. That is where my problem really kicks in.
So do you still struggle to identify characters? That is a bit...
When they get killed, I recognise them when they're on screen.
Yeah.
But once it shows someone die, you don't really get a close-up of who they are sometimes.
In some occasions, they didn't shoot the deaths at all.
Yeah. So you just kind of like, who's dead? And then they'll name someone, and you're like, I've never got familiar with the cast at all from name.
Yeah. I know one of the big criticisms is that lack of, the ability to identify the cast.
Yeah.
Do you think we have a bit of an advantage because quite a large amount of the cast is British this time?
Yeah, that doesn't help me.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, right, okay. I just wondered if there would be people you were familiar with.
Not really, no. I've recognised some of them over years through other films and things like that. So it's not really just because I'm British.
No, I just...
It's mainly because I've just gone like, I've watched a lot of film now. I know who this person is.
Fair enough.
So I've seen Charles S. Dutton in quite a few things. Pops up here and there.
Yeah.
He's great in everything. To be fair, a lot of this cast are great in everything. Got Charles Dance in this, man.
Paul McGann.
Yeah, he's your
Doctor.
Doctor Who.
Although he is treated pretty horrendously by the theatrical cut.
And then there's, God, what is his name from 89 Batman? He's the thug who gets...
Oh, I know exactly who you mean.
What is his name?
Oh,
Is it Christopher Fairbanks?
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, Murphy.
Yeah, so I recognise him.
The one singing Zager and Evans.
Yeah, I recognise him.
Probably gets acid to his face.
Yeah, recognise him.
Is it his real voice in Batman?
I believe so.
This is the one where the dog gets killed.
Is it a dog or is it a cow?
Well, in that case, which version are we preferring?
Because this alien gets known as the runner.
Yes.
It's the fast one, it's the leaner one. I believe that should come from the dog.
Yeah, agree with that.
This came from a cow. I think it should be a bigger, bulkier alien.
But also, when it bursts out of Port Spike, it's a big creature. So, honestly, I have problems with both versions. Big problems with both versions.
Yeah.
If I am going to be mean to Alien 3, I don't want to be mean to Alien 3 because I like it a lot.
I don't think you can be mean on Alien 3. I think a lot of it just comes down to there's a whole lot of problems going on behind the scenes on this film in comparison to the previous two.
A disaster. Like, an absolute production disaster. I mean, I think the writings on the wall where Guyler and Hill are already trying to call it Aliens 2.
If it had come out of Aliens 2, I think I'd have been absolutely confused.
But there is an Italian Alien 2 as well, one of those knockoff films just to try and cash in.
Don't blame them.
Poor me, as in my younger days, reading the backs of VHS tapes and trying to work out the order. I'd have been having an absolute nightmare in that case. But, I mean, you've got Vincent Ward, you've already mentioned. He's the one that came up with the idea that there were going to be monks. It wasn't going to be a prison planet at all. That only comes from an alternative script by David Twohy, who later went on to do Pitch Black.
Right.
So he loves his prison. The idea of prisoners, but bold prisoners. So there were going to be monks and a wooden planet. Would it have worked? I think it'd have been interesting. I don't think it fits in with the Alien universe, though.
No, I think the prison was great.
Yes.
There's just something off with this movie. I think it is just everything that was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, they just don't know what they're doing. Even down to the fact that they're making sets for Vincent Ward's version of the film where it is a wooden planet with mugs. And you can see in the set design, like stained glass windows, like things were clearly designed for a previous version of the script.
Yeah.
They've then just been sprayed so they look like concrete instead of wood.
Right.
So, if anything, I think it's quite interesting bringing religion into Alien. You've got these, they're ex-prisoners, really. They're custodians of the prison that they used to be interned in.
Yeah.
I think Charles Dance Clemens, the character, he could have gone home by this stage, but chooses to remain because he's sort of with this group. I can't remember the way they describe their religion as well, but it's very apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And it does feel like these people are just surviving on the edge of space, that everything could be gone already, and they're just clinging to this rock and the system they understand. Like the supply ships are few and far between. I love that whole aesthetic. I adore. I think that's fantastic. But the film immediately just loses the plot by saying, right, how are we going to follow up with aliens? And comes up with the most convoluted, there is an egg on the Sulaco somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the Queen impale Bishop. Why not just say it laid like a seed in that point and that then grew during hypersleep?
Yeah.
There are ways to do this, but they've failed on every possible level, really. You know, I can't be nice. The cryotubes, they're not even replicas of aliens. They are the cryotubes from Alien, actually.
Right.
And then there's the whole, you're deciding that you're going to have a facehugger loose on the ship that this time is capable of laying two seeds, essentially. They went to the trouble of designing a super facehugger, which you see in the assembly cut. It gets the ox because he holds it up and it's got like webbing in between the fingers. But the one that gets the character on board the Sulaco, are we going to say, because he's kind of an integral part of the film, I think. Yeah, so Ripley gets impregnated in the opening moments of the film. Yeah. It's a regular facehugger though. It's not the super facehugger, and which I still think is a silly term anyway. Queen facehugger, probably. Who knows? But you know, amazing model work. The EV being jettisoned from the Sulaco. They bring back the same ship from the Sulaco, the same ship model for the Sulaco that then gets reused as the Wayland ship that comes back. Model work's great. And then when the alien starts going on a rampage, I have a lot of fun with it, and I think the cast are a lot of fun. You get a weird possible Withnail and I reunion because originally Clemens was supposed to be played by Richard E. Grant. So you'd have had Richard E. Grant, Paul McGann, and Ralph Brown as well.
Oh, that'd have been great.
I know.
I love Whitnell and I in this.
I love all the Golic stuff, which is sadly mostly deleted from the theatrical cut, because at some point the producers went, oh, if the alien gets captured in a toxic waste containment unit, that takes the horror out of the film, which I massively disagree with, because if this is happening at the halfway point of the movie, you know that thing's getting out.
Yeah.
You've got the tension of, you know it's going to escape somehow. And then I love the solution that Golic, having seen two of his fellow prisoners being attacked, has a religious experience. And as far as he's concerned, this devil, he starts worshipping it, and he becomes like Renfield to Dracula.
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring victims to Dracula, essentially, and I shall be spared. And of course, he's immediately devoured, which is great. I love that stuff. You've got 85, you know, the poor Ralph Brown who's there to look at his IQ, and they just... all the prisoners are picking on him ever since. Pete Postlethwaite, not in it enough. I think he's great all the way through. You've essentially got a cast of British actors in particular, and not to disparage the American ones, because there's some great actors there as well, but a British cast that could have just gone on the RSC and done any Shakespearean play and done it fantastically. There's so much talent there. A lot of it maybe not used like it could be.
Yeah.
Maybe lost in the crowd because they're all bald men. Even the prison warden. But then again, they are all bald, including Ripley, because of the lice problem. They've got to clip their hair.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a famous thing that Sigourney Weaver, when the reshoots happened, they ended up making a bald cap because they were going to charge so much more money for her to have to shave her head again. So to avoid that, they took the lesser expense of creating a bald cap for her.
Right.
Also, maybe not the nicest way to start your movie by doing an autopsy of the girl that we've all fallen in love with as this wonderful survivor, this character that, you know, has been an adopted child of the heroine, is going to drown in a cryotube.
Yeah.
And then we're going to just do a pretty brutal autopsy, which apparently was even more brutal. And during the pre-screenings, they said you can't show this.
No.
So much of that footage has just got junked, and it's the sort of thing that probably doesn't need to be found.
No. Newt was one of the best child character in a film.
Recast for AU3 is Danielle Edmond, I think. So, but I assume presumably just for the...
Yeah.
But then surely it must be a body cast? I don't know.
I really don't know.
No. But Michael Biehn, obviously, as well,
Yeah.
not happy because his agent was visiting Pinewood Studios and walked into the prop department and saw a body cast of him
Yeah.
and just went, that's my client. I need to tell him about this.
Yeah.
And that's why he's killed in 2 separate ways, but both ways unidentifiable in,
Yeah, he's
in court.
impaled in one of them.
Yeah, but one, I think you get a better view of, the remains. It's not a nice way to see him go out.
No, like you said, they take out 2 characters who you just essentially just thought they're great, and then this one opens and go, they're dead.
Yeah. So that just immediately makes half the audience hate the movie off the
Yeah, like I said, when I first watched this, really upset by that opening. Still second favourite at the time, though.
But don't you think that sort of, you're immediately put into that position where you go from Hollywood, perfect ending, family unit together to just sheer depression. Just, this is a dark, twisted universe. Nasty things happen out here.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody's safe. And I think that's how you reset. And I like that.
Yeah, it was dark. I think that's why I did like it, because it was just the darkest of the 3.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I think darkest of the franchise.
Definitely.
There might be moments in other ones to come, but
Yeah, you get darker moments, but not a whole film, just like you said, depressing in a way. In an enjoyable way.
Yeah, I agree.
You can enjoy this film. It's not like you just sat there depressed throughout. So it's well made.
I mean, David Fincher.
I think he was the saving thing of this movie.
Yeah.
If he hadn't have been on it, there's not many other directors you could have had where they could have held it together so well.
But it's a statement of his future career, right?
Yeah, you could probably add some yes man director on it, and it'd have just probably been a pile of crap.
He was going to be Reddy Harlan, and he left it to do Die Hard 2.
I'm so glad.
You don't like Die Hard 2?
No, but I don't think Reddy Harlan would have made Alien 3 any good.
He wanted to do Engineers.
I'm kind of glad he didn't.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I mean, Fincher famously disowns this film. Won't have anything to do with it. I think there was some famous riots going on at the time near the lab where the film was being processed, and he was winning the riots to reach the lab to burn the film down, so it was never seen. I think he does himself a bit of a disservice. I think he directs his heart out.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think many other directors would have been able to have held it together so well. If you'd have had another director on it, you could have just ended up with some yes man, and all these bad ideas just get thrown in the bucket, and you're like, this is what we get.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with what we got.
Oh, yeah. You must like the music.
Elliot Goldenthal is one of my favourite composers.
Yeah. You've got Lento and I think Adagio at the end, which is just one of my favourite pieces of music. I don't think that piece of music, it's so triumphant for, I'm going to massively spoil the ending here.
It's all right.
For
moving on to 4.
suicide, essentially.
Yeah.
Which version do you prefer?
What do you mean?
Because the theatrical suicide is different to the assembly cut suicide. So in the assembly cut, she just falls into the molten lead. And in the theatrical, I prefer it, the Queen does burst out as she's going down. And that was because of Terminator 2 at the time. They thought it was too similar to Arnold's sacrifice at the end.
Right.
So they put the Queen in to say that we can't be ripping it off. I like her taking her phone with her. Because as she goes down, she's at peace. Literally, an alien was ripped through her chest. Yeah. But she's so calm with it to say that that's just happened. And I just like the idea of her just taking it with her. Like, she's going to make sure she gets this done.
It's in her chest anyway.
It rips out. So,
Either way.
She's about to fall into molten lead.
Yeah, either way, I think they're kind of the same. I guess the one where it bursted out is like, oh shit, I've got to get out of here. Yeah. So, kind of funny.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a favourite out of these.
Fair enough. No.
They're pretty much the same, but one just goes like, yeah, I'm a bit of a chest bursty.
Yeah, I think I like that. Oh, and speaking of iconography, the famous shot. If there's Alien 3 gave us anything, it's the scene where the alien comes right up to her face and her tongue comes out.
Oh, yeah.
And that is an incredible shot. Also, the fact, just before that happens, there's like a gurney. It's such a weird VFX thing. And there's a gurney just next to the alien. When you first see it, and it does look maybe a little odd, and it looks up and then goes for her, it's a rod puppet at that moment. The gurney next to it has been composited in. I've seen pre-release footage, and it's just not there. And you think, how the hell have they done that? And it's seamless, which can't be said for a lot of the rod puppet stuff, which is another reason that a lot of people don't like Alien 3.
Yeah, it had a lot of testing.
Yeah, it's ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it's too ahead of its time.
Looking back, I think maybe it was time constraints and Fincher and the studio butting heads. I don't think that ever helped.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
I mean, they were pushing the boat out when it came to visual effects. I think it's a wonderful idea. Also, if I had access to the 20th Century Fox archives and could find the original footage, if I had any dream project, it would be, can we just redo the rod puppet into it? Because honestly, the footage will look great. I think with modern techniques, you could make it almost seamless.
Yeah.
The common criticism is that people say, I don't like the CGI alien. It's not CGI is the important thing. It's a practical puppet that's composited into a shot. The shadows are CG. There's a scene when the alien is vanquished when its dome starts to crack. Those cracks are CG.
Yeah.
There's not that many CG shots in the film.
No.
Oh, I think when Weyland-Yutani arrive as well, and the scientists are marching towards the facility, you see this like matter like blown across, and that's a CG effect.
Right.
I always thought that looked a little bit off.
Yeah, when you think it looks a bit off, every time you watch it, it just kind of gets worse.
Yeah, especially in high definition. Yeah, it just makes it easy to spot, doesn't it? But I think a sadly maligned film that needs a bit more love, I think.
For me, it's still third in the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, ranking, not just why would he say it's third in the franchise when it is called Alien 3. I've never really had a problem with this one. I've always watched it, enjoyed it, and gone, right, that's the end of that.
It's like closing the book temporarily. What do you think of Wayland at the end? Well, actually, talking of Bishop as well, the practical puppet's incredible. Where, you know, when we didn't mention it, but Bishop is torn in half at the conclusion of Aliens.
Very sad moment.
Well, yeah. But then they have an incredible practical puppet in Alien 3.
Yeah.
It was the pinnacle of technology at the time. I think it holds up today, which is going to become relevant when we talk about Romulus. And then, not only are you going to have puppet Lance Henriksen, voiced by Lance Henriksen, sadly killed by Ripley as well. So we get Ripley killing off one of her friends, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, let's have more depression.
Oh, man, the movie's dark, depressing. Everyone dies.
Yeah. So then having killed off a friend that she's, well, you know, he's a friend by the end. She doesn't trust him to start with, but she grows to appreciate him. And you've done okay, Bishop.
Great guy.
And then Bishop 2, as he's credited, but is he officially Michael Wayland now?
I don't know.
Will it be Michael Wayland?
I think that's only in Colonial Marines.
But he obviously arrives, and then depending upon the version you watch, in the assembly cut, Ralph Brown, 85, hits his ear, which his ear is then hanging off.
Right, I think that was the last version I watched.
Yeah, and then he says, I'm not a droid.
All right.
Well, it's a debate. Is it actually an android or is it the actual man? Would they really have sent the actual man all the way out there? Who knows?
It is a good confrontation, though.
Well, poor Ralph Brown doesn't make it. Killed by pulse rifle, which return. The same pulse rifle comes back, although they're black now.
Yeah, I'm guessing the new model.
Well, they're just stealth versions.
You're telling me they've just sprayed them black now?
The suits, they were all designed by Terry English as well, who did the marine armor. That suit design is incredible, I think. I think one of the video games later sort of suggested that they were androids, but I don't know if there was ever an official line on that.
Was that video game Colonial Marines by any chance?
No, AVP. The 2010 one.
Right.
Yeah.
Just had to make sure.
Well, yeah, our Kevin is there. We don't want to get into that, I'm sure.
No, we don't.
I have to mention Tom Woodruff.
Yeah.
So forgive me, Tom Woodruff Jr. So he actually worked on Aliens.
Yeah.
So he was working in Stan Winston's studio and then went to Pinewood to do some touching up for the aliens whilst they were in front of the cameras. He famously, when they finished the suits, he was the first person to put them on for some promo shots just to sort of, you know, this is the completed suit, this is what it looks like, just to sort of let the producers know how progress was going.
Yeah.
He doesn't play an alien in Aliens. He does in Alien 3. And from this point going forwards, he plays the lead alien all the way up to ATP Requiem.
Right.
And I think he does a great job. But he's also in Aliens, I should have mentioned this earlier. He's one of the salvages at the start of the movie.
Right.
He's the one with the big hair. Best getting low, but nice little cameo. That is then going to be the lead alien going forward. But he's great. There's the runner or the dog alien, whichever you want to call it, or the cow alien.
I usually know it as the runner for some reason.
It covers all bases, doesn't it?
Yeah. Isn't it smaller?
Definitely when you see the rod puppet,
Yeah.
you can tell it's smaller. And then they just shoot around it when it's a man in the suit. Well, the suit looks great as well.
Yeah.
We're back to a dome. They got rid of the dome for Aliens. That comes back for Alien.
I'm afraid noticed that they got rid of the dome in Aliens.
Yeah, it was because when they delivered the original head to the studio, so Stan Winston studio, so they could copy it was in two parts.
Right.
And they saw it without the dome and went, I quite like that.
Right.
We'll leave it off. Of course, it had the skull missing, so they fill in the eye holes.
Right.
And I think their mentality was, we saw it just get bored in Alien. In Aliens, these things have been there for, at least 17 days.
Right.
Because that's how long it takes the Marines to get there. So yeah, this was what happens when they mature.
Right.
That sort of gets a bit lost along the way, I think.
They just kind of do what they want with these xenomorphs.
Yeah, here's what it is.
Especially later.
Especially with the next film.
Alien Resurrection.
Absolutely.
From 1997.
So here you ran into these things before.
Yeah,
What did you do?
I died.
This was directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, and it's written by Joss Whedon.
Dun, dun, dun.
Huge fan. Had a horrible run on X-Men. That's the comic books.
He actually wrote the comics, did it?
Joss Whedon, yeah.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, he did some really bad X-Men comics. Did one great volume in 6.
Wow.
Anyway, Sigourney Weaver's back as Ripley. Winona Ryder is Carl, Ron Perlman, Jonna, Gary Dordon's Christy. Oh, here we go, Michael Wincott name.
Elgin.
Brad Dourif, getting them.
So you're still positive about Resurrection?
I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just a fun action film, isn't it?
I agree with that. Yeah,
This is the first, I think, popcorn flick of the Alien franchise.
absolutely agree.
Some people might say Aliens are a bit of a popcorn flick, but I disagree. I think it's too well of a crafted movie. But I think this is pure fun and entertainment.
Absolutely.
As Joss Whedon said, they took this movie too seriously. It was supposed to be funnier.
It's still quite fun though.
Yeah, I don't think Joss Whedon knows how to make a movie, though.
Yeah.
I've had this discussion on the previous episode about Joss Whedon.
Right.
I don't want to be talking about him every week.
Well, him and Jumpy Edge and I have had a big fallout over this.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It seems as though he said he did everything wrong.
Yeah.
Whatever this script was originally, I think the director, Jean-Pierre, did the best he could.
Yeah.
I think it genuinely looks good and it's enjoyable. And that's, I think, all you really need.
Yeah. I didn't appreciate just how the camera work with all the crash zooms and he loves his Dutch angles.
Yeah.
For a Frenchman. And it's got a real style to it. It's got a heavy filter over the top of it.
Yeah.
I know the cinematographer had a process where he removed the silver from the negative to try and he would just make the blacks deeper.
Yeah.
And it just came up with quite a high contrast style, I think, which I like the style of it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the miniature work, they had problems trying to get the miniature work to match the in-studio footage. So the Betty, they got a name, Elgin's crew. I can't remember.
Oh, never mind.
Well, I mean, the crew of the Betty, essentially. Well, when the ship itself is, you can't tell the colours so much because they painted over the ship a lot to try and sort of dull down the surfaces.
Right.
But originally it was quite brightly coloured, almost yellow, with red tiger stripes. And that was very heavily influenced by Heavy Metal by Mobius, those comics, which heavily inspired, well, more Ivor Powell, but Ridley Scott was introduced to that, and that became a big inspiration for him with the original Alien. So those bright colours, which Ron Cobb used to do a lot of his design work with those, that never came to the screen. Like there were designs of the Nostromo, which was yellow at one point.
Right.
It would have been a different look. That they finally do with Alien Resurrection, and then they dull all the paintwork down, so you can't really see. But also, it's kind of reminiscent of a facehugger as well, which I quite like. The way that the ship is
Right, I've never noticed.
designed, colour-wise as well.
Yeah. Feel kind of stupid for not noticing that.
Well, I mean, the Auriga, which is, essentially, at that time, Hollywood suddenly becomes obsessed with genetic experimentation. You've got Jurassic Park, is probably what kicks it off. You've then got, after this, you've got Deep Blue Sea, genetic experimentation on sharks. It's just the in thing. So this time, we're genetically experimenting on the aliens.
Yeah, there's a huge thing in comic books as well. And
Yeah.
Joss Whedon being a comic book guy, I think that also comes into that.
So it's all connected then, isn't it?
Yeah.
But essentially, they're trying to bring it back to aliens running around on a spaceship. So they're taking the idea from the first film and, taking the aliens from the second film, and here we go. And hopefully it's less depressing this time.
This is a fun conflict one, right?
But I mean, the Auriga, that's named after Greek mythology. So you've got, it represents Phaethon, son of the sun god Helios, who tricks his father into letting him drive his chariot for a day. And then he crashes the chariot, which then burns and scorches the earth.
Right.
So the name of the ship is very prophetic for how this movie is going to go. I sort of liken the tone of Resurrection. It feels like the Dark Horse Alien comics.
Yeah.
Where
Anything can happen.
it's got a sense of fun. I mean, they didn't have to bring Ripley back, did they?
No, but that was originally going to be Newt, apparently. Wasn't it?
Yeah, at one stage.
That'd have been strange as well, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that'd have worked.
Sigourney said she was done with the franchise. That was why she'd had Ripley killed off for 3, because she obviously at this point she's a producer on these movies.
Yeah.
That's why Alien 3 doesn't have the guns, because she's passionately anti-gun.
Yeah.
But this time they decided to drive a truckload of $11 million up to her front door, so she couldn't really say no.
No.
She had a strange list of demands for this one, including sex with an alien. Whatever floats your boat for Sigourney, I suppose. What do you think?
What do I think?
Yes.
Of this whole movie?
Yeah.
I think I've pretty much said it. I still rank it as the 4th best in the franchise. I love it.
Really?
Yeah, I do genuinely love watching this movie. I could put AVP above it if we're willing to say AVP are part of this franchise, but I kind of separate them.
Yeah.
But if you say this one feels like comic book, then AVP, I guess, is the comic book movie of the lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, this is in line with those, and they're all just fun films.
Yeah. This one did upset Giga a lot.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So obviously heavily involved in the first film.
Yeah.
And was listened to a hell of a lot in the first film. Aliens, they cut him out, essentially. Cameron wanted to do his own. As far as he was concerned, Giga's job was done.
Yeah.
The alien was designed. Cameron designed the alien queen.
Yeah, he pretty much kept it very in line with what Giga had done anyway.
It's perfect.
And Cameron is a control freak as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned, and he's very passionate about what he does. I do love James Cameron as a movie maker.
Oh, yeah.
I just do not like his films post Terminator 2.
Yeah, so Giga's involvement on Alien 3 was supposed to be a lot more, and we were in the days of faxing, where he was faxing his designs from his home in Switzerland to the team at Pinewood. You know, Tom Woodruff Jr., Alec Gillis, who were doing Alien 3, and he had all these ideas for the runner, and to be fair, it's pretty close. He had very pronounced lips on his design, and that didn't really translate across into what we finally saw. He actually made a full-size model, which is in his museum in Switzerland. That's like a bucket list thing for me. I need to go to that museum to see all of his artwork, because I just think he's an incredible artist. But Alien Resurrection comes around, and it's still Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr. on this production. Once again, absolutely no communication whatsoever. And to top it off, when they release it in theatres, no credit for Giga.
Right.
That upset him a lot. There's a lot of correspondence he sent to 20th Century Fox at the time to get that resolved. And so on all of the home video releases, his name isn't now. But when it comes to alien design, are we in agreement that the newborn is the weakest part of this film?
There's some good stuff about it.
Yeah.
I think it could look better.
Well, they didn't want to show too much of it for a good reason.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Just two sets of male and female genitalia, so they weren't going to take that, were they?
No.
They went to John Cage and they said that's too much for the French.
I don't say it's really bad. I think they've been worse. But it's what happens when you go about making hybrids.
Yeah.
I don't think they're all supposed to be great. I think part of the reason of it not being good looking is the story of itself of you shouldn't play God.
Yeah. I mean, Ripley burning the clones, I think, is a fantastic scene.
That is great.
And she acts her heart out for that.
That is a great bit. I do find it a bit funny, though. She's like, oh, here's my defect clone. It's in pain or whatever. And she's just like, I'm going to burn it.
Yeah, it's a bit grim.
Yeah.
The weapons are a bit weird in it as well. So you've got what is essentially the new pulse rifle, but it has like a stun setting. Sometimes they fire bullets, and then the flamethrower Ripley uses has an identity crisis. At one stage, it's firing grenades out of itself. At another, it's firing bullets out of itself. That's when you get digital effects rather than having practical weapons, which is what you've had in Aliens and Alien 3.
Yeah.
Where it's a practical weapon that just shoots, and then it becomes something else. But talking of the Johnner's gun firing torpedoes at one stage, you've got the underwater scene, which I really like, even though CGI xenomorphs.
They look good, though.
They do, for the time as well.
Yeah, they still kind of hold up, I'd say.
Yeah, they'd actually shot some footage in a pool, and I remember watching the behind-the-scenes documentary, and they were just like, it was as if they were saying, yeah, this was the footage we used. No, it wasn't. Just clearly not. But yeah, the CG they used. That scene has been slightly spoiled for me because someone pointed out to me that you can see a diver swimming across the screen, and you can see an underwater cameraman with camera.
Right.
If you just pause it at the right point, which is a shame.
Of all the Alien films to have an underwater scene, I am surprised it's not James Cameron.
Very true. I suppose you do get the alien rising out of the water and to get new. But yeah, not underwater.
I bet he watched Alien Resurrection. Just like,
should have done that.
One thing I could have done in my...
Some very lackluster deaths in Resurrection, though. Like, really bad.
I know you're going to bring on.
There's a few.
Michael Wincott walking down.
That's because in a way it feels like it's an homage to Dallas's death, where here's the captain, here's the competent man. But rather than Dallas is like actively going into a vent to flush out a creature with a weapon, he knows what he's facing. Elgin wanders down a corridor to pick up two guns that are on the floor, then gets dragged through and just...
That to me is like how I die in a video game. I want those cool weapons. I go to get them. Oh no.
Death.
Yeah.
It's just disappointing. God, I love Michael Wincott. That voice is one of the best voices in film history. And it makes me sad. But yeah, I mean, you've got Christie's death as well. Those guns he's got on, those concealable firearms he's got, that was a reference to Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. That was a callback. At one point, there was talk, I believe it was Jet Li, but I've also heard Chow Yun-fat.
So I tell you,
don't know which it is.
I heard Chow Yun-fat because it was John Woo inspired.
Yeah, I've read.
So they want the dual pistol. And
I've read
probably a dove flying. I don't know.
There was supposed to be one of the scripts, and this is a film that went through many script versions as well. There was supposed to be like almost like a rainforest section of the spaceship, which was going to be providing the atmosphere essentially.
That does sound very Dark Horse comic book.
Exactly that. Yeah,
I think that is in a Dark Horse comic book.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
It probably is in a Dark Horse comic book, but I mean an Alien Dark Horse comic book.
Absolutely. Sunshine had a similar sort of idea of a garden to provide the atmosphere, didn't it? I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. And
cool. Silent Running, of course. I want to say Cool Runnings then. It was a very different
same film. I always get confused. I remember I watched that classic sci-fi Cool Runnings.
Silent Runnings was... Oh, I love that film. That film broke me with the robot. Oh, anyway. But yeah, so that looks to death. So you've got Christy, which is frankly pathetic. Oh, the woman, the female character, I've completely forgotten her name. Elgin's girlfriend, who he's just grabbed.
Oh, I don't know her name.
Completely forgot.
I kind of forget she exists until I'm actually watching the movie.
Yeah. She pretends to be in charge for like 5 minutes and then gets very quickly grabbed. And not even, you don't see the death, she just screams.
There's a lot of odd stuff in this one.
And Christy, when he's just hangs off it sounds incredibly cool with his concealed pistols hanging backwards. And it's just terrible. And it's CG traces, really. But they look like they're supposed to be lasers, but they don't sound like lasers. And then one just it's just completely missing the alien he's shooting at.
Yeah.
And then one bullet just magically just hits him dead center, and then its head explodes. But when it explodes, it looks like streamers going off. It's very strange.
This one's like the opposite of Alien 3. You see some deaths, but you wish you hadn't.
I mean, Cole is an android, and then you've got how we've gone from Ash to Bishop to Cole, so ABC. Doesn't slightly work because we've got two Bs with Alien 3 and Aliens, obviously.
I don't really feel Alien 3 introduced a new one.
Fair enough. Yeah,
so that gets a pass.
Yeah, okay, I'm over criticising. Like I say, I can have a lot of fun with this one. I think initially the newborn's death at the end when it's sucked out of the Betty.
Oh, it's very sad.
You feel sorry for it. You know, the thing, it's got the black eyes and it looks sad, and really, it never attacks Ripley at all. It accepts her as its mother, instantly kills the alien queen, which is, even the alien queen you almost feel just like, it's sort of crying out to its child, only to get his head knocked off. And that's the same head from Aliens.
Yeah.
They fished it out of the rubbish heap, literally.
Yeah.
They junked it, and they had to get it back. And there's a mix of miniature work and the full-size alien head. I don't think there was a lot left beyond the head, sadly.
I'm surprised at what they throw away.
Well, for Aliens, the floor grates that they use in Hadley's Hope, they literally are from Alien. They're the Nostromo ones. They found those on the scrap heap as well. Oh, they're perfect. Oh, God, it's the same ones. It happens a lot. It's sad. Always important to preserve film props, I always think. Although,
even if they get them on from collectors.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh when a collector has it and they just go, yes, I'll loan you it for X amount of money.
Yeah. At least they've been looked after. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Very, trying to think of a better word than gooey, the aliens in Resurrection. Noticeably so. They're really slimy.
I was about to say slimy.
Better than gooey. We're going with slimy.
The slippery aliens.
Goo everywhere. I don't want to be mean to this movie because I have a lot of fun with it.
I don't think I can be mean to it.
I don't like the newborn stuff.
Unless I'm discussing Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Because I really don't understand how he can go like, you did everything wrong from my script. And I just think, Joss, I've seen the film. I think they did the best they could with your script.
Do you have a preferred ending to this one from the director's cut or the theatrical?
Hang on, what's the difference?
So the theatrical, newborn gets sucked out into space, then they enter Earth's atmosphere, and then they're just like flying above, and they're seeing the land down below. And the director's cut, they actually land on Earth.
Right, I've only seen the one where they land.
Yeah.
And I just kind of go like, what happens next?
They're in Paris, because of course it's Jean Piaget.
Yeah. I didn't want to see the xenomorphs on the Eiffel Tower.
Which is kind of like, the whole premise of Resurrection was they're reaching Earth.
Yeah.
And now we're finally getting that with Noah Hawley in his new series when that comes
Yeah,
out.
but that years before.
I know, so it's, but it's happening. Well, technically an MVP anyway.
They're working backwards.
Do you reckon that's Resurrection covered?
Probably.
A lot of fun.
Check it out. I am the ultimate badass. Yeah. State of the badass art.
So I've been Matt from Sitting Through the Credits. My podcast covers a lot of film production details and just going behind the scenes, really, from films new and old. Currently on a bit of a hiatus, but my next one is Where It Goes There. So thanks for having me.
No problem.
You finished? That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What are we gonna do?
So that's the end of the show. Thank you for joining us this week. And if you haven't, give us a like and a subscribe. A glowing review would also be appreciated. We are cynic_critique on X and Instagram. Links to those and more can be found in our description. And Matt's Sitting Through the Credits links and information will be found below as well. And remember to join us next week as Matt and myself continue to explore the Alien franchise. Thank you and goodbye.
King has his reign.